Well, here's the Polaris and the Sure-Trac loaded with wood chips. You can see it is higher than the original beds. So this is my first trip with it. Let's just see how it behaves all loaded, and I'll give you a report. Well, I'm up to where I'm laying chips, and let's just walk up here and see what's going on. Here's one of my little water escape routes here to stop the road from washing out. I've got it back, tilted back, and I've been laying it down here. And that first bit I shoveled, and now I'm getting ready to rake that out from here to the back of the wagon here. And I started right in here shoveling just to get that back edge off.
After using this Sure-Trac now for a while, I've discovered some limitations that led to further improvements on this nice dump trailer. I am enjoying it, and I've used it to haul wood chips without the wooden sides that I made and with the wooden sides I made. And you can also see on the inside I've been hauling soil with it too. Now obviously soil is much heavier and of course I can feel that, and I've only been using the Polaris to pull this thing, my Polaris EV, the Ranger EV. Well, let me just show you some things that I've done. Now, in addition to building this wooden slat here, which you've seen, the sides and the front, I discovered that those clamps that I had here originally that were designed for camper tops on trucks were totally inadequate. Number one, they were made out of aluminum, and so they weren't very strong. And number two, they were out like that. If you remember in the earlier frames of the video, they were out, and so they really, you wouldn't think something sticking out that much would be significant, but it was, in terms of cutting corners, turning corners, and catching trees and stuff, going through the woods and through my trails, and it just wasn't working out. So I found these lovely steel C-clamps, and boy, they are wonderful. And so I've got 3 on each side. Another thing that was going on with this thing was that, especially when it was empty, it was rattling like crazy. And so one thing that I did was I put these heavy-duty clamps on the ends of this tailgate here. I have to kind of hold it like this, they're so strong. You see how it pulls, even it's so strong that it pulls this tailgate up good and tight to take care of the rattling. Another thing that I did was I took strips of rubber and I glued strips of rubber on the tailgate. So when it rattles back and forth, it's still not as bad as it was, but it's still bad. But this really helps out a whole lot. Get that thing on there. Oh, it's tight. There you go. And on the other side as well. Now, another thing that I did was on the front here, I put a rubber strip, glued a rubber strip on the front of this tailgate here, and I also glued strips in here so this doesn't move back and forth, and I put a rubber strip on the top here to really bring that in tight. So see, it moves a little bit here and a little bit here, a little bit here, but it doesn't make any noise, which is lovely. Okay, let me show you something else I did too, which helped out a whole lot.
All right, now right here there's a pair of pillars here and there that this rests on, and I put rubber right here in between those two, and that really softens it and it takes care of a significant rattle. The other thing I did was I put a glued rubber strip right here, and that cushioned it against this that sits here. And well, this comes down and sits right here. This comes down and sits right here, and the rubber strip cushions that and takes care of rattles. That was a significant improvement as well. The other thing that I've done, and I've gone through here and I've lubricated all the bushings and the joints, anything that rotates. And I also discovered that back here are Zerk things for putting grease. So I've lubricated and greased up everything on this thing that can be. And it has made a tremendous difference, especially when it's empty. Now when it's full, it never was much of a problem with making noise because everything's being held tight by all the weight. But empty, it was a rattle trap, and now it no longer rattles when I'm pulling it, which is lovely. So I'm very pleased with those changes, and you can see right here, especially on this side, when I had those large ones, I learned how to drive with this thing, and here's where I've scraped a couple of trees in the forest, and I would just rip off those black aluminum things I originally had on there, and so those clamps are much better. So after I get finished hauling all these wood chips and everything, and any soil I'm going to be moving around this spring, then this thing's going to get a good washing. So there you go. So that's pretty much it for wrapping up Ken's show and tell on this Sure-Trac dump trailer. And I thank you very much for watching.